Welcome to Life in High Gear. This is episode 35, and I'm your coach, Kristin. As we get started, you can go ahead and take a deep breath out and just let go of any nonsense, anything that's not about you, anything somebody said to you recently or 9 years ago that's just still on your mind and your heart. Just let go and exhale. Notice the pause at the end of the exhale and start to draw your breath in. And I'm going to give you a couple of announcements as we get into today's episode, which is a really great one. So before we get into this juicy stuff, what I'd like to invite you to do is to go to patreon.com/lifeinhighgear. And here's why. If you become a monthly patron to this podcast, to what we do here, you're helping other people find this podcast, and you're also supporting the podcast. So please go and do that. I have a little prize for you too. If you support with a monthly donation, what people who are supporters get is a really sweet and useful life hack that you can use, and I give you one every single month. So go ahead and do that. If you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, please rate and review, leave a nice review rating, and that will also help people find us. And this is great information that my teachers have imparted to me, that I'm imparting to you, so that your life is problem-free, safe, happy, wealthy, fun. So please go and do that. And you can also book a session with me. This is a really cool way for you and I to work privately. If you go to the link that's here in the show notes, you will see a link to book a 30-minute introductory call with me, and I would love to see you in person. So please go ahead and do that. Don't waste time. Make it part of your self-care. So as you've heard my voice, I hope that you've been breathing and that you hear the sound of your own breath and that it feels smooth and good to you. I'd like for you to say this to yourself right now. I will not abandon myself. I'm saying that because I'd like for that to be one of the mantras that you go to. By abandoning yourself, when you sort of fudge over your boundaries, you say, I'm going to let that pass. When you abandon yourself, you're really abandoning your self-care. So it's something that I'd like for you to say to yourself today. It's a suggestion. Going into today's episode, which is about your pain, an antidote to pain, to chaos, problems, is not abandoning yourself, taking care of yourself. So as you hear my voice or see me if you're watching us on YouTube, I'd like for you to call to mind 3 things that you can do to not abandon yourself. I'm going to go into it further. Say to yourself, I will not be a bystander in my own life. So instead of standing by and watching things pass you by, you're participating, you're taking responsibility. So what are 3 things you can do to take care of yourself? I'll give you something that someone did who I'm coaching with now. One of the things that they did was they took themselves off an email list to an event that they have no intention of going to. But if they see the photos from that event, if they see pictures and hear anything about the event, it's going to bother them. So they took themselves off of a mailing list. And I do that all the time. I do that actually almost every day. Unsubscribe to things that really I don't want a part of anymore. It's part of my daily self-care. That could be one of your 3 things, just taking yourself off a mailing list. But it could also be taking a bath. It could be taking a walk. It could be making a phone call to a friend. It could be saying no. So what are 3 things you're doing to take care of yourself? Again, I will not abandon myself. Many of you have been treated poorly, traumatized, and other people have abandoned you and your needs. Your needs, your wants, your desires are important, and other people cannot or will not fill those needs. But by taking care of yourself, not abandoning yourself, you're able to take responsibility for you and meet your own needs. So that's why I'd like for you to write down those 3 things. Our talk today goes further. And I've been thinking about something, friends. And what I've been thinking about is this idea that your darkest, most painful moments have purpose. This is a sweet gift I have for you today. Your darkest, most painful moments have purpose. So some of you have a very dark past that you don't talk about. I know I have dark things that I haven't talked about publicly. And it's not because it's a secret, it's because it's something that has transformed me and I've transmuted to be able to help you. So in walking through the darkest parts of my life and transcending and transmuting that pain into positivity, into life lessons, I'm able to help you and walk with you, which is why people coach with me privately, which is why you might be listening to this podcast and listening to my voice. But let's talk about you. What is in your darkest past? What are some painful things that you've been through? And as you call them to mind, instead of recalling just the trauma, I'm offering you a way to reframe everything and know that that painful past, those painful events, are actually like a match lit under you to light a fire under you, to get you to move into a new era of your life. So if you have not yet dealt with old trauma, painful things, you keep it a real secret. Instead, can you please acknowledge that that pain wasn't for nothing? That pain was for purpose. So part of awakening to your life's purpose is knowing that that pain is there for a reason. And it's hard to rationalize, I know. It's hard to acknowledge the pain that you've been through. But I just spoke the other day to someone who went through years of pain, addiction, and she's in recovery from that addiction and that painful time. And the addiction took place for a reason, and the recovery took place because she had strength and agency over her life, and she was able to wake up in her life. And the pain that she has now transcended and transmuted is able to serve her. So let's now think of not what you thought of when I just was talking about your painful past. Let's think together, and you're in my safe company. If you're watching this or simply listening to this, you're in my company and you're in a safe place. So notice the chair you're sitting on, or if you're lying in bed, feel your hips in the seat, feel your back against the bed. Feel that wherever you are, if you're standing, that your feet are underneath you and you're standing up tall, that you're supported, your back is supported, your hips are supported, your feet are supported, and know that you're grounded and safe as you hear my voice. Now let's take a deep breath together. Slowly, intentionally breathe out. And now breathe in And consider saying to yourself, I will not abandon myself. You're safe. Now, maybe place a hand on your belly and continue breathing. And I'm having you do that so you're breathing. Keep breathing. You're breathing, you're doing diaphragmatic breathing. And now I want you to think of something very painful that you've been through recently or in the past. Something very painful. And acknowledge it. Acknowledge how painful it was and feel the feelings of that situation. Do you feel scared? Do you feel hostile? Do you feel angry? Do you feel furious? Do you feel terrified? Do you feel ashamed? And however you feel, let it be as it is. Now keep breathing. Whatever you thought of has great purpose. And it is not necessarily your job to figure out what purpose that will serve. Trust that it will serve a purpose. Trust that your painful story of your painful past first isn't really a reflection of you. There is, and I'll explain this briefly, there is the I, when the story of I am goes away. So your pain that you just thought of, recalled in the safety of my voice and presence, and in the safety of your groundedness and breath, the painful piece is a story. It's a narrative. And it is not final, and it is not permanent. It was a temporary situation, and whatever is happening now, it's different. And so the painful story has a purpose. Trust that the pain in your life is for good. That whether it's to make you more resilient, elastic, softer, thereby stronger, or whether it's to help another person or thousands of people, right? Groups of people, a child, someone in your life. Now, your past has purpose. Does this mean that you should now take your story, your little story, and hold it in your hand and then go running off to tell the next person who's willing to listen to it? No. There are certain people, and we've talked about this in past episodes, there are certain people who are safe people and certain people who are not. So if you'd like to learn more about that, I encourage you to go back and listen to the episode about the things that safe people do, and only safe people do those things, and people who are unsafe do other things, and learn through that episode to delineate between the two. Safe people, scary and not safe people. Safe people are people who are okay for you to tell your story to. And really, you'll probably just have a few of those. And that's okay. That's okay. The story isn't for everyone, but the story is for a purpose. So let's say again, I will not abandon myself, and I will not be a bystander in my own life. I will actively participate. I will take responsibility for my life. I will transmute my pain for good. I trust that my past pain has a purpose. My darkest hours serve me well. Those are possible mantras for you. Continue breathing with me. Your darkest pain, your roughest, most horrific moments are there for a reason. And the toughest things that you've been through and the most awful things that you may still have to go through, you will pull through. You will 100% show up and pull through. I know it. When you need someone to walk with you through it, rather than isolate during painful times, which is what many humans tend to do, reach out. That's why at the beginning of this episode, I offer you to reach out to me. Reach out to me through my Instagram DMs. This is a perfect time to head over to @mylifeinhighgear. Send me a message. Book a 30-minute consultation with me. Sometimes safe people are not our friends. Sometimes safe people are allies. They're acquaintances. They're part of our team. It could be a therapist, a coach, some other association, a colleague who you trust. Unsafe people will want to hear, and this is important, unsafe people will love to hear about the pain in your story. And unsafe people do not have time for the transmutation of that pain. Unsafe people want to hear about the awful, sordid, drastic, and dramatic details of your painful story. And they will come and sit with you and watch like a greedy audience and listen and then head out instead of supporting you. So if you're going through a tough time now, resist the urge to isolate and say this with me one more time. I will not abandon myself. Go back and check out the 3 things that you thought of. If you have your notebook with you, and I encourage you to listen to this podcast maybe again if you didn't get out your notebook, or if you have your notebook with you, go ahead and write down the things that you're going to do for self-care just today. Just today. What are you going to do to take care of yourself? What are the ways that you can show up for yourself in the next hour so that you don't abandon yourself, so that you show up for pleasure, for pain, and you just show up and you're the same no matter what. You're serene, you're calm, and you trust that your darkest hours have purpose. Take a deep breath out. Let your shoulders fall away from your ears and soften this area around your jaw. You have muscles here just around your jawline, so you can open and shut your mouth. Feel those muscles, and you can even palpate them with your fingers. Soften there. Soften in the space between your brows. And take another breath. Notice the pause. And let's say these 2 things one last time. I trust that my darkest hours have purpose. I will not abandon myself. Listen, I'm so proud of you for spending time on yourself like this. I know for many of you that this podcast, our time together, is self-care. And frankly, it's my joy and my honor to walk with you. I am so happy that you're taking care of yourself. It makes me feel so good. You're part of this community of people who are generating good vibes and positive endorphins and positive hormones, and you're part of this community that really prioritizes caring for self, creating safety, creating boundaries, keeping your self-care in the forefront, and being positive in your interactions and becoming more wealthy, more productive, more connected to people in ways that are real and beautiful and honest. So thank you for not abandoning yourself. Thank you for showing up. And thank you for trusting that your darkest, most awful pain has purpose. Until next time, take care.